of these.
Okay, so the next part is the dialect of local and global, which also deals with globalization. So the dialect of local and global, what that means is like if you're looking at a global scale, so like a massive scale, you're looking at everything, or if you're looking at a local level, which is like a smaller outlook on it. So, for example, like to look locally is like traditional stuff. So with traditional ways, you're usually you're not going to waste. You're very concerned with using everything. There's a time and a season for everything. Where globalized stuff is becoming, it's more modern, and our culture now values like convenience. Like for example, being able to go get bananas whenever we want. You know, there's a season for them, but since we're globalized, we're able to get bananas whenever we want to. Whereas at a local level, bananas only grow a certain time, so you can only have bananas at that time, you know? So that's kind of what it's talking about. And then to go along with globalization, do you guys know what that means?
Yes.
Mom? You know what globalization means? Okay, so I like to think of it as just like a movement. It's a movement of technology. It's a movement of, I don't know, investments, trade. We're just moving forward. And so my question to you guys is that, do you think globalization would be good for Suriname? Do you think they need to globalize, or can they stick with their traditional ways? Should they force like the Maroon tribes to globalize, or like, hey, you need to change your ways, or we're gonna kick you out? Like, we need to move forward.
Well, I don't think on the tribes. I don't think they should do anything with that, just because they are all still clear up in the Amazon. You know, there's too much going. You know, it would be too much of a deal. They're happy with the way things are. Unless it became a major problem with the government, you know, the tribes and them, but it doesn't sound like it's a huge deal, you know, other than them trying to want to get more land. But like we said, developing that land is pretty rough anyway. So, but as far as like the rest of the country, where the you know where all the people are, and that if they don't get globalized and take advantage of their exports and those type of things, and then also take advantage of the technology and other things that are out there, they're just going to be left behind.
Mm-hmm.
And that puts them more at risk for having, somebody come, try to do a takeover of their government. All of Central America is pretty unstable. You've got communist and socialist leaders that keep trying to take over. You look at Venezuela and that, and Colombia is always unstable and all that because of drugs and things like that. You better stay on top of things, or else those type of, thugs are going to come down and kind of push it around, and may make your life miserable. Where if you're staying on top of things, then the government can have some money, some power, and some control, I
Yeah.
think.
No, I definitely agree. I think.
Did you want? Sorry,
No, you're good. It'd be interesting to know how many tribes there are in that country. I mean, is there a lot of people that are kind of far removed from the main source of government? I mean,
yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know how many people are there, but I'm just wondering too, like, do they want to be globalized? Do you think the tribes want to, but they're just like stuck on their traditional stuff? Like, do they view it as a bad thing when maybe it could help their people, like as far as medicine and stuff,
Well, it's like the things that I've seen. It's not like they don't have like clothes and things. I mean, it's not like they're wearing loincloths and that. They have shirts and whatever on, but they still have their own ways of doing things. And so I don't think they really do. I think they don't mind having, some medicine and some other things like that coming down. But as far as like changing their whole culture and trying to be like the rest of the country and speaking Dutch and all that, I don't think they have any interest in any of that.
and how much do they know that they're
behind?
aware of?
Yeah, because I think if they wanted to get out, like if somebody easily could, it's not like there isn't boats and things that come up every once in a while.
Yeah.
But I think they live there for a reason, so they probably don't. But the rest of the country, I'm sure does. They want to have iPhones and
Yeah.
computers and they don't want to be worried about food supplies and how to get a job and where to get a job, that type of stuff. So if they want to do that type of stuff, they're going to need to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's basically what I wanted to cover with that. I just to reemphasize, I think, it might not be like the greatest way because it changes your tradition and stuff, but if you want to stay like in it with the world to be able to make money or anything, you have to keep up, or else you're going to be left behind and then taken over. Because that's kind of just how it is now, I don't think you need to change like your values, but you have to do something. Okay, so for my development dollar, so the rules for that are kind of weird rules, but it's basically $1 to help the country and for me. So whether I use that dollar to try to make more money or I donate it or something like that, I'm not really sure yet, but I'll read the rules and then I'll tell you my idea. So I'm not supposed to spend it on mac and cheese or anything like it. And then it must benefit my adopted country or me, and it has to bless them. That's kind of the same thing, and then don't bury the dollar, which means don't just do nothing with it. So my ideas were I found this website. I don't know if it's credible. Those are kind of hard, like especially for, I don't know, like aid and stuff, to find credible resources, and that's unless they're like a really big company you can kind of trust, but the little ones, they could be good, but you just don't know. So what I wanted to do is, it was like a Bible school or something. I'm not sure. Some like church thing I feel more confident with. So whether it was our church or another church, I think they have good intentions. So what I was going to do is, it was a school, and so I was going to see if I could like donate to help them towards getting a computer. And we talked about in class how if you gave someone in a foreign or in a developing country a computer, they'll do a lot more with it than we do. I mean, honestly, I use the internet and Word, and that's about it. When there's a lot of things you can do with a computer. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I use the basic stuff. And so when we talked about it in class, a kid like that can go on and do a lot with the computer because they value it more than we do, because it's kind of a convenience for us type of thing. And so I was thinking, one, it could benefit them, and two, eventually maybe it could benefit me because they could go on to like college or something and, I don't know, get a degree or learn stuff about computers and then end up doing something that will, I don't know, create something bigger or benefit their country or something that can kind of come back to me, because it's kind of hard to go both ways because I don't know the person who's going to get it or who it will benefit, but I feel like if it's doing them good, they're going to try to do something good as well. So I'm not really necessarily about it coming back to benefit me, but rather kind of moving on to benefit other people is kind of what I think is necessary.
Another option too is, you could go like the Perpetual Education Fund, which kind of does what you're talking about. If you donated it to that, because maybe you wouldn't buy them a computer, but it will allow them to loan to go to college or whatnot. Mm-hmm. Because in those type of areas, it's the same type of thing. If to make a couple dollars a day is pretty common, but if you're a professional of any type, you're going to be so much higher and you're going to be able to do so much more for your family. So if you could do something like that. So if you donate it to a program like that where, someone could loan against that, get their college education, and then
it's going to benefit them.
Yeah.
In the long term versus a computer for the short term.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good idea. Yeah. One, I think too, they just really value any education. We kind of take it for granted. Like, I'm grateful for it, but, you know, I do complain about it sometimes, where they're just really happy to have the opportunity, you know? So it's kind of, I don't know, a humbling experience. Okay, last thing. So the Millennial Development Goals, I'll just read over those really quick. There was ones about poverty, education, gender inequality and empowering women, child mortality, disease, environmental sustainability, and partnerships. So these goals were just to help like all the countries get up to level with it. So what did you think of the goals? Do you think there's too many, or do you think they're like a good start? They end this year, so they're making new ones. So I just want to ask you guys what you think about it.
So these aren't your goals?
No,
These aren't
they're-
your goals, these are the goals for the government
Yeah. Mhm.
or whatever? I think there's too many. I think they need to focus on, you know, because a lot of them are kind of, you know, if you take care of one thing, it takes care of some of the other ones. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of them are, you know, it depends on the government itself. You know, you're never going to have women, gender and equality, this and that, good health care, good this, and, you know, a lot of those goals, if you've got a corrupt government that make their own living or whatnot. If it's just, you know, a few rich and a bunch of poor people below them, then none of those goals are ever going to get established, because, you know, you've got to have freedom, you've got to have a way for people to move up, and once you do that, then all these other things can get more addressed. Because like with gender equality, I mean, if everybody's just worried about putting food on the table, that's the last thing they're going to be worried about, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, as far as with, you know, better disease control and things like that, it's the same thing. You know, if you got a bunch of poor people that have no way of ever moving up in their society, it's not going to change.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have any thoughts about that, Mom? Or kind of agree?
I kind of agree.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is that I think it's difficult to expect every country to get all those goals done when every country is different, first of all, and they all have different problems, you know? Like, some are more civilized and need work on something else, and some just need to work on poverty and, like, you know, making it healthy and stuff. That's what they need to work on. All the other stuff they can't work on because they don't have the foundations of it. So I just think for the next, the new goals, I think what they should do is that, I don't know, I think they should have a list of goals. Like, I think these goals are good goals. They cover everything, but they should, like, each country should pick, like, 2 or 3, or 1 or 2, some goals, and that's what their country's focused on. And then they report back that way, instead of, here's all these goals, we're going to try to jam it, because they're not meeting the goals. So I don't know why they expect everything to be done. I think they just need to manage it down more, and then I think they'll see better results that way. Because then if you get stuff done, then you can just keep building off while maintaining. So that's just what I think.
I agree.
Okay, do you guys have any more questions for me about it?
No, well done, dear.
No, that's very good, and I'm sure your professor is very impressed with your work. No, I'm just kidding.
I hope so.
It helps her to get an A. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right.